Yeah. How's your day going?
Good. How about you?
You know what? It's pretty good. Surprisingly, with everything going on, it's you can't complain, right?
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually in Kelowna for work, so I'm like, um, I this worked out good because I have full days here, but not like crazy, crazy. I'm really focused on the project that I'm doing. So,
How do you maintain focusing on one project and not many? Because that can get daunting, eh?
well, I don't. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I do them. I have to bop around because I do I do website design and I do interior design because to me they're basically like I'm creating spaces no matter how I look at it. It's
Yeah.
just one is representing a brand like online versus one is a physical space.
Right.
So I my days like it's like a ping pong ball. I'm all over the place sometimes.
I love it. Are you in mainly commercial or residential?
Mostly
Yeah.
residential. I do some commercial, but it's kind of hit and miss with commercial.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, just give me 1 second here. Just gotta pull up something. No, I was happy we were able to do this. Sorry I did it on such short notice. I was like, Dale, let's do this.
Yeah, no, it worked. It's actually perfect for me.
Is it
This way,
perfect?
the way it worked out. Yeah.
Awesome. So I hear you're a top 40 under 40 alumni, just like me.
Yes, I was very honored to win. Like I when I first got the notification, as you know, you hear that it basically says like somebody nominated you,
Yeah.
which is really fun. And so I filled it out and I did all the things that they ask, and I thought, well, I'll never win, but like that was cool, that's awesome. And then I got a call in the summer, and like it was just kind of in the middle of the pandemic,
Hmm.
so I remember I was sitting on my deck and an unknown name came in, and I'm like who is this? Like, I don't know who this is. And when they said it, I burst out crying, which I'm not like the crying type, but I was like, I just needed some good news. This is such a good timing for um, this crazy world we were in, and we're kind of back in again. So,
It's funny when you're at your all time low, sometimes you get these like cheers and ways the universe sends you, and you're like, or messages, right? Yeah. Keep
exactly.
going.
Keep going. Don't give up. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your story, Dale. I mean, are you from Calgary originally?
I always say I'm a child of Alberta. So I've lived in Okotoks,
Yeah.
the general Calgary area, since I was 9 years old. And so I feel like Calgary will always be home. And that's also a huge reason why winning top 40 under 40 was a very big honor for me because I love Calgary and I'm really like, I love the city and I
Mhm.
love soaking up everything the city has to offer. And so I'm grateful to be part of such a prosperous city. But when I first moved to Okotoks, yeah, I believe I was 9 years old and my dad got transferred. So
Mm, okay.
that's what brought
Wow.
us here.
How did you hear about this podcast, or where did it just pop up on for you?
I don't even remember. I actually am a fan of this podcast. So I
Oh,
just
thank
started
you.
listening to it and loving it. And I honestly, because you always highlight Canadian people and inspirational people, I just loved the stories. And so I started watching. I think the first one I watched was Karen Henusset.
Oh,
And
yes.
then I've been pretty dedicated ever since. Like they're just great. And I'm a fan of you more than so I don't know how I heard about it. Probably Instagram.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you always known though? Because I mean, growing up in Okotoks, that was before it was even a city, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was they were trying to keep it a town at that point and they had to give
W-
that up.
Was Air Ranch around at that time?
No, not when I first moved
No.
there. It came about when I was like a young adult, I think.
Oh my. Oh,
Yeah,
where did time go?
exactly.
Did you always know that you would be in interior design or have an eye for art and creativity?
I did. I always had an eye, but I never thought I would be able to. So, to give a little background about me, I'm in a wheelchair, which I don't know if anyone can see
Oh
that.
yes,
That's the
yeah.
problem with these Zoom calls. But so I'm an interior designer, a website designer, public speaker, and I never thought I would do any of those things. To be completely honest, I was a a kid that basically had some mobility challenges, but nobody understood them. So my doctors didn't even understand them, and my parents didn't understand them. So we were kind of always on the hunt to figure out and what I was showing was that I was getting weaker and weaker and I was walking on my toes. So When I was 16, I had a doctor do a surgery that didn't go well, and some mistakes were made, and just things didn't, I didn't recover because of the sort of underlying disorder that they didn't know I had at the time.
Mhm.
Um, I never walked again after that. And I was 16 at that point. And so when I came out of that, my all my friends were going off to college like soon after. And I realized I don't even know how to go off to college because I'd
Mhm.
been in the comfort of my parents' home in Okotoks, and they were making sure I was okay. And I got home every night and did all the thing, got in and out of the house and up and down the stairs. And but it was a struggle because our house was a two-story. It wasn't set up for me.
Right.
And so they did a full renovation to help me, which like so grateful that my parents are the best. And
Mhm.
so I was so lucky that I was in a family that could make everything okay for me. But then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, but I want to go off and live my own life. I don't want to stay in my parents' house forever because now I'm 17 and 18. And so I went to college to be a social worker. But basically, I just picked social work because it was a small college that I could get in like with 2 weeks left before school started.
Was it in
So
Alberta, the college?
yeah, I went to Red Deer College. I
Oh,
just
yes,
like,
sorry.
where has room? What program could I get into? I took an aptitude test and they're
Mhm.
like, you seem to like people. You should be in, whatever. So I listened and I did it. And I'm not a good social worker.
Mhm.
There are people who are amazing and it is a hard, hard job. And I wasn't one of them because it wasn't creative enough for me.
Mhm.
So that's when I got out of social work. I realized, okay, you don't just take an aptitude test and find a college that has room for you. You have to actually like your career. So I started just doing interior design work for friends and family because I was pretty good at it and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't getting paid. It was like someone would say to my mom and dad, "Who did your renovation?" And they're like, "Well, Dayle kind of did. She was the one that was guided everything. We
Right.
just listened to her." And they're like, "Wow, it doesn't feel like your teenage daughter was able to do that for you." But and so anyways, that's how I kind of got into it. And I had an aunt who's a business coach, and she said to me, "You can't do this for free. This is a career. You have to charge people." So then that's when I was like, okay, how do I make this a career? And there's the obvious obstacles, right? I can't really get into the certain spaces in people's homes. Like nobody's house in Canada anyway has no stairs anywhere. Like everybody either has a stairway going up the stair, up the front door, up to the master bedroom, wherever. So I had to figure out a whole bunch of ways, and that is one of the number one questions that everybody asks me is, how do you get into my home if you come over? So
And how do you?
well, I have a few ways.
Yeah.
So technology is my best friend. So sometimes I don't even need to. And like the pandemic has really shown a lot of people that like you don't need to go to people's houses. Zoom and a FaceTime and those kinds of things can give you a really clear idea of exactly what is going on in someone's space. And then I do everything on a computer anyways, as far as planning and floor plans and all of that. So I leaned on technology a lot longer than everybody else has needed to. But I have an awesome team. So if I have my contractors coming, I get the guys to just carry me in or whatever. I have people that help me, and I always say I'm the queen bee and I just get carried around. So
I love that. You've taken such a situation that you didn't ask for and turned it into something so beautiful. You
yeah, it's brought me a lot of opportunity, and I am somebody that was born with a really happy, positive demeanor anyway, which is honestly like the luckiest part about my life is that I can always see the good in something. And so now I'm very aware that my unique perspective is definitely helping me with my design career.
Mm. Dale, did you know, well, when you were growing up and you said you had some mobility issues at first, what was it exactly? Was it just walking?
So my mom and dad just noticed, like, I have a younger sister that's 2 years younger than me, and I would go up the stairs and I would kind of like use my hands, or really lean on the railing and like just weird little things that were just slightly different. Whereas my sister would just run up the stairs
Mhm.
and there'd be no issue for her. My mom, and they noticed that she could run faster than me. And then I started walking on my toes a little bit. And so it's like, how concerning is it? It wasn't a big deal, but it was slightly
Right.
just, you just kind of thought, well, let's make a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
But then I have a neuromuscular disorder
Mhm.
that closestly aligns with muscular dystrophy, but it isn't exactly in line with any muscular dystrophy that they know about. So that was 20 some years ago that I got my first, like, they started digging into this. And so more recently, with new technology, they said, well, why don't we do another like biopsy and look into what it could be? Because maybe technology and healthcare and all of that's come a long way and we'll get more information. So I thought, yeah, okay, sure. Because I don't dwell on it. So for me, I'm like, it is what it is. There doesn't seem to be a lot of cure or resources around it. I'm not going to wait for that. Like, I'm just going to live today and be happy today. And so they did that, and basically it came back. There's still no information. It's just a
Wow.
big. There's nobody else that has it. Nobody else's um, genetics like
Right.
match it. So
Yeah.
it's just a no information
On a
zone.
positive, you're simply one of a kind.
Exactly. That's what I think. I'm like, well, of course not, because I'm the only one of
So
me.
is it the waist down? Is that where it's
No, it's all over. So, and what's amazing is that other people with this type of disorder,
Mhm.
there's a couple of rare things. Usually they're males,
Okay.
and then usually they only live until they're 5 years old, because if all of your muscles are weak, your body doesn't say, oh, but we're only going to do her outward muscles. We're not going to affect her swallowing, her heart, her lungs, because those are also muscles.
Yeah.
But for whatever, grace of God, the universe, whatever you believe in, I don't have any of my internal organs have not been affected by this, just all of my muscles on the outside of my body.
Okay. So slowly as you get older, just things are just gonna start like
Exactly. Weakening.
wow. Have you seen certain things drastically weaken over the years?
I have, like, it's funny because I can still drive
Yeah.
and safely drive, like, and I've never been in any accidents or anything. But I do find that, like, transferring in and out of the car is becoming harder. Or if I'm really tired
Mhm.
that day, like, I have to really watch my other activity levels,
Okay.
because by bedtime I might be so tired that getting in and out of the bed feels really hard. So then I'm going to my fiance and being like, okay, today I'm too tired. I need your help. And, he's always up to help me, but it's definitely, I know if I've pushed myself too far. Whereas 10 years ago, I didn't even think of those things as something that might come along and bite me later in the day.
Yeah. Once you went into that surgery and you woke up and they said this news to you, I mean, I can't even imagine, your life changes. Not only your family's, but your personal life. You're
Yeah.
like, holy smokes, I all my friends are going away and I'm dealing with this alone.
Mhm.
Okay, where did you start with that?
Well, I definitely, so it wasn't immediate. Like, the doctors didn't realize the kind of mistake until a few weeks later, when the mistake showed up as far as like the actual surgery went. And then the deterioration of being off my feet for that extended period of time was what actually did the biggest amount of damage. Because if you
Mhm.
don't use something, you lose it physically, right?
Right.
And we all can kind of relate to that. If you are really into working out and then you quit, or if you're like a champion swimmer and then you don't swim for 5 years, you're not going to get back in the pool and be a champion swimmer. You're going to have to work back up to it. But for me, I can never regain muscle once I lose it. That's part of the disease. So I had to go through almost a grieving mourning process of my mobility. It's a loss. Like, as much as it's a loss you can learn to live with, I lost a very, very big part of my life, which was independence. It was the ability to jump up and run out and get in my car and then get out of the car and go into a store all on my own. It all looked different. And moving out of my parents' house looked different.
Mhm.
Living within their house looked different. There was just a million things that changed, and I didn't even know the gravity of it. Luckily, I am positive because I don't go to worst case scenarios. I was like, okay, well, today what, like today I'm fine because my mom and dad are helping me. And then I had to make the next move. It's like, okay, where could I live if I was going to go off to college? And I realized there's wheelchair accessible dorms. So it was kind of like, okay, there's a solution for that. And then there's a solution for the next thing.
Mhm.
And I just had to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I had days that were sad. And I mean, I still have days where I'm like, today I'm tired. I don't want, I can't, don't have the resources and the energy and the physical ability to go do the thing I want. I have to wait for somebody's help or whatever. Um, but I also am very, very aware that to be grateful for the abilities that I do still have,
Mhm.
because life is short. And what it gave me was this like very, very different perspective on the world, because when it's hard to take risks, but I always like, one of the talks that I do is, it's titled "What Happens When the Worst Thing You Can Imagine Becomes Your Reality." Because what that does is it gives you the freedom to mess up a million times, right? Like, if the worst thing's already happened and I got through it, okay, why not start a business? Why not become an interior designer? Why not, you know, be on someone's podcast and
It's like,
tell
what do
my
you have to
story?
lose kind of thing. It's a wake up call.
Exactly. It's a wake up call. Life is short. And they could, my next doctor's appointment, they could say, your heart is weakening and you have 1 year to live, 5 years to live. Like, I have no idea. So today is the day to do all the things.
I love that. And I think one thing that defines you is gratefulness, that word, you know.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, you're very happy to live. You're happy to make the most of your days, your time, and leave your mark here through what you
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
exactly.
Like since you've been top 40 under 40, and actually prior to that, you've also been doing a lot of public speaking, haven't you?
I have. Yeah.
Where did you get that confidence, and what was the reasoning behind what you do through public speaking?
What I realized is that I really do. People are interested in to know, because I would meet people in the mall or just in my life, and they'd be like, "Why are you in a wheelchair? You're so young," and I bring kind of my happiness to every situation. I don't. So people are like, "You should speak publicly. You should tell your story. It's so interesting, so fascinating." And I was like, "No, I don't think so." And then I went to like kind of a women's conference, and it was one of the things that kept coming up as kind of like feedback for me.
Right.
So I decided, I thought, one day it would be cool to like tell my story publicly, but I thought one or two times, like
Mhm.
not a public speaker, but to speak publicly once. And about 6 days after I got home from that conference, completely unrelated, I got an invitation to speak at an Alberta health conference. And I was like, well, this is completely random. I do not know how they got my number, my name, nothing. And so I thought, okay, well, here we go. Like, if you ask the universe for something, you can get it. And here it is, right in my lap. So I did that first talk and I was not confident. I was terrified. But it went well. And my session, because they have a whole bunch of sessions, my session filled up. So I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. Like, it's nice to have a full crowd. And then from there, I got different opportunities that were more design related. But I also realized that a designer, any designer could talk design. So, what is my special kind of formula for
Mhm.
design? And what do I bring that's different than another designer? And for me, it's just that different perspective. It's like being the height of a child. So, what does their home and how do they relate to a home feel? And what about your home makes you happy versus just looks good? You know, there's a lot more that makes a great house than just some art that I picked for you that I think is great. Is it a color that brings you joy or reminds you of a wonderful memory? Is it so I just took design work and I dug a little deeper. And so sometimes I'm speaking about my story, some like exclusively, and sometimes I'm speaking about my story and design and how I relate that to different um,
Right.
clients and projects.
Have you seen now more than ever people wanting to revamp their homes, upgrade their offices or blow out a wall or whatnot?
Yes. Well, and you know why? You get trapped in the four walls of your house, and it's like, we need to entertain the kids. I need a space to relax that's not around everybody. So I've done a lot of recreational spaces. I've done a lot of master en suites. I've done a lot of offices. And it's it's because people are, what happens if we have to spend more time in these houses on the long term? And as we're seeing, it's not as going away as quickly as we had hoped. So I think those investments are going to be worth it for people that did invest in them. But I have been, honestly, it's been so busy with people being like, I can't look at this wall anymore. I hate this fireplace or whatever, because our homes have been our whole world.
Well, we've all heard it. How do you take a house and turn it into a home? What are some things that you do, Dale, specifically that makes a house a home?
So I ask questions. So if I was designing your home, I'd say, what's the best trip you've ever been on? What's your favorite memory with your parents or with your grandparents? Um, is there a color that sticks out to you that it ties you back to a time in your life that made you happy, made you feel excited, that you have really strong memories towards? And I always tell the story that when I first started dating my fiance, he invited me to go to Hawaii, like within a couple weeks of knowing each other. And so the trip wasn't for a few months, but we did end up going on that trip. And we went, he's like, he loves giving me adventures, like, because I can't go on a hike or I can't go do certain things. So we found this little jungle trek that he's like, we can do it, we can do it. So we go through this little jungle, and at the end of it is a place called Honolulu Bay. And the water of, like, to see that water from that angle was spectacular. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And the only way to get there was through this little jungle. And so for me, that color of blue
Yes.
brings me joy. And I wear it, I decorate with it, I need to be surrounded by it. And it's one of those things that everybody has those stories, but they don't necessarily think to get a pillow or a pair of earrings. They don't think about that, and they don't connect the two. And so to me, that's how you make your house your home, is you have connection points to the things you bring into it. Because things are just things. But if they mean something to you, then that becomes your home.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have this zebra behind me. People are like,
Yeah, I
"What in
know.
the
I
world?"
always wonder what's the story behind that. I love
Well, I've
hearing.
had it, growing up since I was a baby. It's been in our family forever, and it was in a box. And I said, "Well, you know what? I'll try it out."
Yeah,
Apparently, the stories they found it in East Africa, and I was born in East Africa. Family's from Africa, so
yeah,
it resonates with me. It's been with me ever since I was little, so I like it.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
it
mean, I
tells
have orca
stories.
whales right there because I love whales, killer
Hmm.
whales. I remember going to Vancouver Islands every summer with my family growing
Awesome.
up. So little things, I guess you're right. It might look a little silly, but it's meaningful, right?
Right, exactly. And homes with character. I mean, they always have. A great home always has colors that tie everything together and great furniture, but there has to be some personality, or else it's just a show home that you know gets dismantled once it gets purchased, and that's when the life actually starts in that house, right?
And that's what I kind of struggle with. There's this modern look, and they say modern needs to be empty, and the less is more.
Hmm.
How do you do less is more? And do you want to do less is more, or do you look like a hoarder if you have all the things that meaning something to you? You know,
Well, so there's two ways to do this, because there are people who need less, right? Like they need to not feel cluttered, but they want to like honor the things that matter to them.
right.
So what I say to do is put them on a rotation. Or if you're not a collector and somebody that wants like bookshelves full of things, stop buying that type of thing to be your item. Like, I personally don't like a lot of clutter, so when I go on a holiday or and I want a little trinket or something to bring home, I'll buy a beautiful serving platter. So I only bring it out for special occasions, and it gets to be just in the drawer until I need to make a beautiful cheese board or something, and that's when I bring out the big wooden tray that I bought abroad or whatever. So you can start buying differently, and you can do it in rotation, where it's like during the winter I bring out these five things and put away those five things if you don't want to overdo it, or just have them out and enjoy them. Put one on your bedside table and one on the island, and wherever.
Oh, super cool. As a designer, how do you keep on top of the trends of the color changes and the palettes? Because this year might be satin silver, and next year it's gallery white.
Right. I do a little bit of keeping in touch, obviously, because you have to stay current. But I'm really get into a partnership with my clients, and we have conversations about what it is that they love, as well as what's kind of going on in the design world. So it's my interest to look on Instagram and look in magazines and stay on top of trends, and that intellectual property kind of like comes with me, and I guide people to use the go with the trend in the way that it works for them, without it being like, well, gold's in, so everything silver is out, and or everything matte black is
Mhm.
whatever, in or out, or whatever it is. If somebody really wants matte black, or if they really want gold, or if they really want silver, we design a home around the things that really matter to them.
Right. What do you think about bedrooms being a dark color, say charcoal gray?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. I'm pretty open to any room being a dark color, because I don't, I think that just because the room color is dark doesn't mean the whole space has to be dark. You can brighten it up, and
Mhm.
like, I think it can be really dramatic and cool.
Now, you were saying is sometimes you don't even have to go to a place to see it. What kind of technology has evolved over the years that's really helped you out?
The biggest thing has been using Zoom and FaceTime, like just having access to video. We're on someone's phone. I can have my assistant or my client show me. The other thing that I started offering was e-design boards, and this was probably 7 or 8 years ago now. And what the beauty is in an e-design board in general is that you get kind of my intellectual property, my expertise, but you are doing the design assistant work. So I'm never coming over. I am asking you for a checklist of things: pictures of the space, general floor plan, like dimensions, and then I'm going to provide you with an online design board that is everything is purchasable in your area of the world. So I've done design boards all over. Like, I think the furthest one away that I've done is New York and
Wow.
Halifax. And because the thing is, I never come to your house, so I can service people anywhere. And what's awesome about it is that a lot of people love interior design and love being part of the process. So they get to go, I get to say, here's a gray sofa that I think is perfect for you. Go sit on it. You don't need me to join you at the store. So you're going to pay me less, because it's less of my time. And you're going to go, and your husband's going to say, it's way too uncomfortable, but I like the look of it. So then they can go shopping and find the general idea of what I've recommended, but find the one that fits their family, their height, whatever their needs look like. And they get to be part of the process, which a lot of people love because it is fun.
How do you find some sort of, I guess, gratification through it all as a person, Dale? Because if I was going to, say, see a magazine and there's a beautiful picture of a horse, it's not the same as being there in person and touching that horse and feeling the horse. Is it hard on you at times? Because you're like, I just want to be in that space to really see what it turned
Yeah,
out to be.
there's the odd project where I'm like, I gotta get there. I'm going to go see it anyway, even though it was an online design board. But usually my clients after are like, we love, just so you know, like I'll get a random text that'll say, just so we're sitting on our new patio, or we're outside at our pool. I hope you know how much we love our house. We
Oh,
just love this house. And for me, I can really live vicariously through them, even like when I see them like having a party on Instagram and they have friends over, obviously not right now, but I'm like, oh, look at their dining room, it looks so good. Like, it's the perfect place to have all that family together. So I get to kind of just soak up their enjoyment out of it.
super cool. Hey, one of these days I might need to get this podcast room totally done up. So
Let's do it. That'd be awesome. Yeah,
you're like, Zach, maybe we might move the zebra. It contrasts with you, but we'll figure that out.
exactly.
So, Dale, before we leave here, what is something you could leave the listeners with to, you know, find some joy in their life, live today? Things that you've done in your life to really move the ball forward in a positive manner and inspire other people.
Um, the thing that I always say is that, like, a lot of times I'll meet young designers because I do a bit of like work with Bow Valley College and their
Mhm.
interior decorating program, and the designers will reach out to me, and it doesn't matter what your goal is or your dream or what you want to get into, or but they'll say, well, I don't have lots of followers, and I don't know where to find customers, and I don't even know where to start. And none of us do. Like, that's the perception that I got some special list of things on how to begin in this career, and I didn't. For 6 years of being an interior designer, I think I had 300 followers on Facebook. So it's not,
The
I didn't
number.
have a big
Yeah.
group. I didn't know where to find people. But every day I made a commitment, and I created habits to work towards my goals, whatever that looked like. And so sometimes, like, some of my goals are to stay a healthy weight. And then some of my goals, so I have to do something that works towards that. And then some of my other goals are to grow my business. So I have to do something small every day that works towards that. And the things don't look big. They look like writing an email to a prospective,
Mhm.
maybe it's a magazine that I'd like one of my projects featured in. And the chances of them saying no, very high. Do I write the email anyways? Absolutely. Because you never know in life when somebody's going to say yes. But if you don't ask for the opportunity, it's not coming your way.
It's always a no, isn't it?
It's always a no. It's a guaranteed no. So why not ask? Why not put yourself out there?
Do you get fearful through rejection?
Of course. I mean, nobody likes to get told no, but at the same time, like, you can get told no and you'll still be on your feet. So what difference does it, like, nobody likes rejection. That's the hard part. And that I talk a lot about in, I do a little thing on dating, like, because I'm in a wheelchair. So I talk a little bit about that. And rejection is the scariest thing in this world. It doesn't matter if it's dating or if it's your business or if it's your career at work and you're asking for a raise. um, it's hard to ask for what you want, but just making what you want known to the people that they might say no today, but they might in 6 months go, okay, we know you've been looking for a new opportunity. There's this project or there's this other thing happening. Why don't you apply for it? Or, but if nobody knows you are even looking for opportunities or to change your career or whatever it is, then they're not going to think of you. So ask for what you want.
It's funny to see how Zoom has become a necessity instead of, hey, do you have Zoom? And they're like, oh, Zoom, I don't know how to do it. Can you just meet in
Oh,
person? Now it's like, nope, I got to learn Zoom.
exactly. I don't know if it's like publicly traded, but I wish I had stocks in it.
Oh, tell me about it. It is. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dale.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.